Hi again, I'm back with my bar pin. I like to use a low-rise pin. I order them from online, and I like the low-rise because there isn't as much wobble when it's pinned to your body. The other thing that I like to do so that the pin doesn't flop is to put the pin above the center, and that allows the brooch to sit more closely against your clothing and not do that kind of little wiggle back and forth. To sew the pin back on, I will make a double strand of thread so you don't have to go through as many times. So I fold the thread over, take a long length, fold it over, add the beeswax again with the thread doubled. So I coat the thread by pulling it through the beeswax. And get that through the eye of the needle. The beeswax makes the thread a little more waterproof. If you have trouble getting that loop through, the beeswax has coated the thread and kind of holds it together. So clip off the loop, press it with between your fingers, and get it through the eye. And sometimes it goes smoothly and sometimes not. I just pressed it together more tightly, and there we go, right through the eye of the needle. Nope, didn't go through the eye of the needle. Go. There, third time's the charm. Bring it through, and again, not the end. Around your thumb, under and through. Pull it tight. If you have a long thread tail, clip it neatly to about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put the pin back onto the circle, and I'm going to put it about 3/4 to 7/8 of the way up on the circle. I'm going to go to the back, about where I'm going to attach the pin back, and I'm going to secure the knot. So through and one stitch, then I'll put the pin back, take the pin back and set it in place, hold it with your thumb, come up through one of the circles, down, up on the other side of the attachment circle, down through the center of the circle. I like to come and secure the very end, so I'll bring that over. And you don't need to do this, but I like to. I'll bring it a couple of times just across the bar as I move over to the other securing circle. Some people prefer to glue on the pin backs, and that's fine. I just like to do most everything with sewing rather than glue when I can. I was talking about the beeswax. It also adds a little bit of waterproofing to the thread, and that usually doesn't matter too much. Okay, I've come up through the circle. I'm going to go to the far side, down through the circle. Secure the very edge of the pin. And down. And now I'll come up in one of the places where there's a thread bar. You can see the back and how that's looking. And where that thread bar is, I'll come through and make a knot. I'll go through to the back. And if you prefer, you can knot just on the back as well, going through one of the stitches. It's always a nice way to secure. And then I run the tail through another stitch. This is simply the old seamstress way of keeping the thread from flying around in the back. Okay, and we're done with that. Okay, now I have the pin back attached to the circle. I'll set the circle over the thread where you can see the yellow thread from where I attached the ruff and all the layers. I'll put that on. I'll pin it in place. And now I will get a single layer of thread. Actually, usually with this, and again I'll condition my thread with the beeswax. Just makes it a little hardier. And that's especially nice if you're doing hair clips, to have the little bit of waterproofing on the thread. Okay, I'll take the end, kind of press it down flat, put it through the eye of the needle. You usually work a little closer and not through the camera. There it comes. Okay. Now you can use a single stitch, or a single strand, or you can double it. I tend to double it just for security on putting the circle with the pin onto the back of the leaf. Okay, another knot. Trim the end. Okay. And now I'm going to come underneath and secure my thread, and with a stitch and going through the stitch, it just knots it a little more securely. I'm going to come out to the edge of the circle and I'll do a slip stitch. You could do a fancy decorative stitch around here using a hem or buttonhole stitch. You could use a fly stitch. You could use embroidery thread to make it more obvious, or you can the quickest and easiest way is to simply do the this little slip stitch, and it's a little bit noticeable, but not real noticeable. And I'm going into the layer of the leaf, and actually through the base as well, and then coming up about a 1/4 inch away, very close to the edge, pulling the needle through and then grabbing the thread and pulling from the thread. That tends to knot less and come through smoother. It also makes less stress on this part of the thread, and so you're not as likely to have the thread break while you're working it. Gives you a little more control. One of the big things in sewing is the more control you have, the neater the work is going to look. So I pull. That's also why I'm using my thumb to hold this down. Is partly it helps me gauge the length of the stitch, and it also helps me as I'm pulling the thread through to get an even pressure on each stitch. And it'll probably take a couple of stitches. These are still a little bit noticeable, but it's certainly a lot prettier than when you saw the larger attaching stitches on the leaf. And it'll probably take me 2 or 3 threads of my shorter length to get around the patching circle with the pin on it. If you use a thimble, you can use the thimble to push the needle through, and that's very handy on your fingers if you're doing a lot of sewing. Okay, at about this length, when I've got about 3 inches, I like to stop and put a knot in it. If you work too close, it tends to be hard to hide the thread tail. So I'll go through twice to make a knot. I'll go back through to doubly secure it. I often go back 1 thread and go through the fabric a little bit. I'm making a loop. I'll come through here again, twice through that loop, pull it tight, and now I will go through a number of layers, pull it out, and cut the thread. That hides the thread tail, and you don't have a little whisker sticking out. Okay, now I'll do another, it should take me 1 more short thread to finish that. So I will go do that and be back to show you the finished product.